now they believe someone abducted Jorelys.
Doing a search of a dumpster which was removed from the apartment complex where the victim disappeared, the investigators discovered the body of little Miss Rivera.
I want her to come home so bad, and I pray to God that somebody has her and will let her go.
She was in the dumpster. It appears from the examination of the agents at the scene that she was severely beaten. We believe that she was sexually assaulted.
Everybody's of interest. Nobody's been ruled out.
This is going to be a very, very horrendous crime. I am convinced of that after having observed the body. Child death is always a terrible thing, but a child who dies under extreme violence is the absolute worst thing that can happen to a human being.
Oh, so sad, so sad. A desperate hunt for an adorable missing 7-year-old girl ends in absolute horror. We are all over this story. Breaking news. Good evening. Jane Velez Mitchell coming to you live from New York City. We are deeply saddened to have to tell you that the worst has happened to this child. 7-year-old Jorelys Rivera vanished from her apartment complex in Canton, Georgia, a suburb just 40 miles outside of Atlanta. On Friday at about 5:30 in the afternoon, Jorelys was playing at the apartment complex playground and reportedly went back to her apartment to get drinks for her friends and never returned. A teenage babysitter was supposed to be watching the little girl and her siblings, but she reportedly walked away from the kids. After a massive 2-day search, a little while ago, cops said, well, sorry to report that they have found this child's body. And what was done to this precious innocent is the work of a monster.
A 7-year-old child was abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered. And then the body dumped. That's all we know at this point.
This is the dumpster where little Jorelys' battered body was thrown away like trash. It was only 100 yards away from the playground where she was having fun just this past Friday. Cops said that the dumpster was so full and compacted they had to remove it to a nearby field to empty it. So who is the violent sicko who kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and then beat this little girl to death? I want to hear from you. Give me a call, 1-877-JVM says, 1-877-586-7297. Straight out to WSB reporter Veronica Waters. I just have to say that I'm sickened by this. I can't just cover this like any other story, another breaking news incident. This is a precious child who was very talkative, apparently, very friendly, very sweet, had lots of friends. Right. An innocent little girl who has done nothing to anybody. And that in our society, this happens over and over again is just unacceptable. Something must be done to change it. Maybe many things have to change. But this is absolutely unacceptable, and we have to bear witness to that and say that first before we go into the who, what, when, where, why, how. Because if we don't do that, then it's just institutionalized, or somehow it's not given the reverence, we do not bear witness to it. This is more than a headline. This is a little child whose life has been lost. So having said that, Veronica, do cops have any idea who might be responsible for this vicious murder? And what about these reports that there were empty apartments in the complex? Have you heard anything about what cops may have found in those empty units?
You know, the neighbors who do live in the complex, Jane, have been very good about letting the police officers, the investigators from the GBI question them, go into their apartments, go into their cars, and try to find out any clues that are available. We don't know whether or not, obviously, the monster who did this to little Jorelys is a person who lives in the complex or a stranger who was just passing by. But we should say that on the table right now, there is a $5,000 reward on the table from the GBI to find the person who sexually assaulted and beat this little girl to death. The cause of death, official cause of death, the medical examiner is still waiting to give us, but we do know, as you said, that this is a horrific crime, no matter how little Jorelys Rivera died. She was innocent. She, in no way, shape, or form, or fashion, asked for this, deserve this, and this is a community that right now is in deep, deep mourning.
Yeah, well, I understand that there is an actual vigil going on as we speak, and in fact, it's going on right behind one of our guests, Heather Johnson-Coker. I understand you are with us. You are a neighbor of this child, and there is a vigil going on behind you. Turn around and just tell me, what do you see behind you? What is going on behind you?
Well, right now, there are children and people bringing animals and toys to the playground where she was abducted from, or where she was last seen. And everybody's just really sad, and it's heartbreaking that she's no longer with us anymore.
I see that you have a little dog there, and I understand that that animal is part of this very sad, sad story. Tell us about that animal's connection to this beautiful little girl.
She loved all types of animals. Anybody that had a dog or a cat, she would run over and want to play with it. And she saw him every day. She would come up to my porch when we were just out on the porch and play with him through the rails. And she was just a very sweet, outgoing child and would talk to anyone. And she loved him a lot.
Wow.
She always held him and played with him.
It's devastating. And I want to bring in a very special guest, one of my heroes, Dina Thompson, who has turned her grief into a crusade for change. Dina's daughter, Summer, was also 7 years old when she disappeared, and she happened to be walking home from school with her siblings. She was later found in a landfill on Georgia-Florida border. Jared Harrell, a 25-year-old neighbor, was arrested for her murder. This is the same individual who had already been red flagged to cops by his roommates for having child porn on his computer. Dina, I know this has to be excruciating for you because of the parallels. Another 7-year-old girl grabbed, violated, murdered, and thrown away in a similar manner to your precious daughter. And your precious daughter also loved animals and was lured by a little dog. The parallels are beyond, I mean, it's so beyond words.
It is. When I heard about this and how it ended, you know, it takes you right back there. And I just wish that I could put my arms around the family and let them know that there are people that care and will listen and would do anything to help get them through this.
Well, I'm sure you could be of help, because no one can even have even a hint of what it must be like. The experience of this for the mother, for you, for this mother, is beyond description. And none of us, we can sort of approach trying to understand the facts, but none of us, Dina, can understand the emotions that you and this mother are going through.
I'm sorry. You're right. Nobody can. It's unimaginable. And it's so heart-wrenching to know that that family is on day one, you know, after finding their baby. Thank God they found her. But day one of the nightmare that doesn't end.
Well,
and a fight against the monsters in the world.
I know you are doing everything that you can with your foundation, which we're going to put up and show throughout this. You're doing everything you can to get some changes. But I'll say one thing. There has to be surveillance video everywhere. And I want to bring in Mike Brooks. Let's talk about what cops are doing to find this very sick individual. There were soda cans apparently found near the scene. She had gone to get soda for her friends. They're being tested for evidence. Then there's all the evidence in the dumpster, so much to sift through. And then, of course, hate to mention these details, but because this child was sexually assaulted, there's DNA. What are cops going to do with all that evidence, Mike?
Well, Jane, they've already collected a lot of evidence from here and also from where they're going through all of the bags in that trash compactor. And Vernon Keenan, who's the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the GBI, told me that they are working right now on that evidence. It's been taken back to the GBI lab. But one of the things they're also doing, Jane, they're going to go through all of the storage units in this complex, because Vernon Keenan told me just a short time ago he believes that this case is centered centered in this complex. And they are going to go through all the storage units. There's about 300 units in this complex. And if they don't get consent from the person that owns that, they will get a warrant if they need it. But so far, residents have been very cooperative with law enforcement. But there's still a lot of questions remain unanswered, Jane.
Mike, quick question. Was there surveillance video in this area? Could they have this monster on tape?
No, there's no surveillance in this particular complex.
You know what? That's an investment we need to make as a society. Every single apartment complex, the playgrounds, the garages, they need to have surveillance video. It's not even that expensive. We're taking your calls on this heart-wrenching story. 1-877-JVM says, 1-877-586-7297. Who did this to 7-year-old Jorelys Rivera? Why? Was somebody allowed to grab this child? I will talk to another neighbor who is extremely concerned and who wants justice.
A 7-year-old child was abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered. And then the body dumped. That's all we know at this point.
But then she went inside because she was cold, and Jorelys was out there by herself.
That appears to be one of the children who was playing with Jorelys in the complex playground shortly before she disappeared. And you're getting slightly different stories, saying her sister went inside, then we hear that Jorelys went inside to get soda, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, Michelle Ward, psychologist, and you're the host of Stalk, Someone's Watching on Investigation Discovery. The key witnesses in this case might be little kids. How do they deal with that?
No, that's right. It's so incredibly difficult. First of all, none of us are great eyewitnesses to begin with. Unless you know something is happening, you really don't pay very good attention. And then when you have a child, it's a whole different ballgame. These poor children are going to be traumatized by this to begin with, and now they're being required to actually report on it. It's really a difficult situation.
Yeah, it sure is. Everything about this is beyond comprehension. It's hard to get your mind around this kind of evil. 7-year-old Jorelys was sexually assaulted and, quote, brutally disfigured. Why? Cops are questioning all the sex offenders in the area. There are 83 to be exact, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Here's a map showing Jorelys' home and the sex offenders nearby. The list of child pornography, enticing a child for indecent purposes, aggravated sodomy. There is actually a sex offender living upstairs from the little girl, although reports are he was convicted of statutory rape and is not considered to be a child predator. All of it is quite scary. I want to go to another neighbor who lives in the area, Charlotte Orr, the child's neighbor. I understand, Charlotte, your grandchildren used to play with little Jorelys. What are your thoughts as we try to digest the unimaginable, violent attack on a precious, innocent child?
Well, I just don't understand how a child can just drop off the face of the earth in such a short time, because Alexis was playing with her at 4 o'clock. And Alexis's mother took her in because it was getting cool out here. Now, she was in front of my patio at a tree at 5 o'clock. And that's the last time I saw her. You know, I see the little girls are on the playground. She has a younger sister, 4 years old, and the two are always on the playground playing when Alexis is out. But I never see any adult supervision with these children. And I just think that parents need to take heed and be a little more careful and know more about where their children are.
Well, this is a visual, by the way. You're looking at a visual right now. People from the community going to the playground where she was last seen, and I think you can see candles, and we heard they were bringing pets because she loved pets. This beautiful little child who was so friendly and talkative, and that's part of the problem. If your child is talkative and friendly, can make friends with adults, can see adults, and be lured in. Dina Thompson, isn't it sick and sad we live in a world where kids can't play in the yard of their own apartment complex this is not Mayberry anymore. We can't do that anymore. The kid has got to be watched constantly.
You're right, they do, and it's not fair because they should be allowed to be children and be innocent and grow up and have the same advantages that we were afforded as children, because obviously we made it through. It's such a sad state that our kids can't walk to school because you live too close to the school to get on the bus, or that a child is playing in a playground in their apartment complex and somebody can just come in there and snatch them right up, and we can't change it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way, but unfortunately it is. Unfortunately it is. Thank you, fantastic panel.